with you here at District E, powered by Ticketmaster, for the Capitals' introductory press conference of their brand new head coach, Spencer Carbery. Let's take you back a few moments ago when GM Brian MacLellan made his opening remarks.
We have a number of people that have relationships with Spencer throughout the organization, player development guys, pro scouts, amateur scouts. He's been around our team and rookie camps, player development camps, training camps. So I think we're very comfortable in knowing the person and what he's going to bring to our organization. So in conclusion, I think we feel very fortunate that we feel we've signed one of the best young coaches in the game, and we're proud to have him here today.
There was Mac at the podium, and now GM Brian MacLellan joins us live here on set. And Mac, in those opening remarks, you talked about the relationship you already had with Spencer in the Capitals system. Was he a guy you looked at from the start, or take us through the process of what this was like this offseason?
Yeah, I think he's always been a guy we've looked at. When we had him, we thought he'd be a head coach at some point, and then, we lost him for a couple years there, and then he came back, and I think he's been a target of us for a long time, and I think we've been the benefit of him going to Toronto and coaching as assistant coach in Toronto and running their power play. So I think it's been a good experience for him, and it's helped us out in the long term.
What were the most important strengths and attributes of what he does as a coach and as a communicator to you?
Yeah, I think communication is a big one. I think he touched on it. Everybody you talk to that's played for him or coached with him or been around him, he's a strong communicator. He's competitive. He has a reputation of getting guys to play the right way and hold them accountable. And, he does a good job system-wise. So he checks a lot of boxes off as a head coach.
Yeah, you see here in his bio, the 20th head coach in franchise history, 41 years old. He started his coaching career in the Capitals organization, now getting his first crack at being a head coach in the NHL. You're trusting this guy, believing in him. I'm believing in him here in day one. Clearly, you saw that in him. Just take us through some of the attributes that really popped off the page when you were interviewing him in the process.
Well, I mean, he has a good track record of developing young guys, getting them to play the right way, taking an interest in them, developing relationships with them. I think the experience in Toronto, working with high-end guys, working with high-end offensive guys, I think he's developed a way to communicate with that type of player. So I think he runs the gamut in skills. I think he can appeal to a lot of different types of players, young and old. So I think those attributes make him a perfect fit for us.
So he really only was able to coach one full year in Hershey. They got ripped off the playoffs the 1 year, then the very weird season, his last there. But when he was in Hershey, what were the things that stood out most with you and the players that he was developing?
Yeah, I think the players really liked playing for him. I think the feedback from players was, he ran a good team. He was a good, intense coach. He got a lot out of players, and he made them better. So I think, we have a lot of people within our organization that have a relationship with him. Our player development guys all know him really well. Our pro scouts know him very well. Our amateur scouts know him well. So we've gotten a lot of feedback on him over the years. So we're excited about having him.
All right, so you checked the head coaching box. That's something we were all waiting for. A few more decisions to happen this offseason, what the team will look like. How are you approaching these next few months? And obviously Spencer now in the room with you guys.
Yeah, I think next on the docket would be hiring a couple assistant coaches. During the interview process, we've talked philosophically about what we might be looking for. So over the next few weeks, we'll gather some names, we'll talk to some guys, and hopefully go down the road and hire a couple guys.
So as we go forward, you've got some upcoming free agents you've got to make decisions on, and then you've got the draft. Draft is first. How excited are you about that?
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot. Picking 8th, I expect that we'll get a good player out of there. I think our amateur staff, we met here 2 weeks ago, went over the possibilities that might be in that area. We have the combine next week in Buffalo, and then we'll head to the draft in Nashville a couple weeks after that. I think, our amateur scouts are excited. They haven't picked this high in a long time, and they're excited about the quality of player that we will get.
I was hoping higher than 8th. I was hoping I was there that night. I was hoping we would go number 1 or 2 or something up high for the Capitals. That would have been fun. Just Spencer Carbery in this system. You talk about the guys like Alex Ovechkin, the veterans in the room. Was he a part of this process with you, or what were some of the veterans like?
I think at exit meetings or before Alex went home, we talked generally about the head coaching, and I brought up Carbery's name. And then, I informed him of the road we were going down to sign Carbery when it did happen.
And also, I'm curious, with the pace this offseason, a lot of head coaching vacancies, did you feel like you had to kind of get your guy quicker as other teams were looking for their head coaches?
Well, I mean, I think he was in demand. He's a good young coach, and there was a lot of teams that wanted to interview him. It was very competitive. So we tried to be as aggressive as we could to sign him and get him.
As you're building your roster for next season and your coaching staff, you've watched every game of the playoffs, I take it, and seen what's gone on. What has stood out most in the playoffs of the teams that have had success?
I think, Carbery's touched on it. I mean, the pace of play is tremendous. And I think the farther it goes on here, it just gets faster. And I think, another trend would be it's, the bigger, heavier players playing at a fast pace.
Yep.
Maybe goaltending, how it's, carried some teams, and other teams it's cracked and resulted in them having some losses.
Yep.
Well, exciting news here in D.C. The Washington Capitals no longer have their head coaching vacancy, hired the 20th head coach in franchise history. GM Brian MacLellan, thank you so much for joining us and giving you some of their insights throughout this process.
Thanks for having me.
All right, it's time now for us to send it over to Al Koken with Capitals radio play-by-play voice, John Walton.
Well, with the radio voice of the Washington Capitals, John Walton, who goes back to, 2015 with the new head coach, Spencer Carbery?
Yeah, you know what? We had a chance to go down and see South Carolina play in the Kelly Cup final, and I was so impressed. I met him down there, and when he talked about being a communicator, Al, that's exactly what he is. I saw that a long time ago with the players who are in South Carolina, and I got to see it in Hershey again, and you just knew that he was going places, and I think to be able to see him come to Washington and kind of complete the organizational trifecta in coming here, it's a great thing to see. I'm so excited that he's here, and I know what he brings to the table, and I can't wait to see it in practice once we get to September.
Well, we did just speak with Rob Kincannon, the president of the South Carolina Stingrays, and he kind of echoed what you just said. But you also have deep ties with the community in Hershey after being there for so many years. What were the things that the Hershey people said about Spencer as he started to make his way up as a coach?
I had the unique opportunity of being able to walk the concourse at the game last night and be around the fans, and fans were coming up to me the whole pregame and saying, we are so excited to see Spencer as the head coach of the Capitals. They know what he was capable of there. It's just a shame that during his time in Hershey, it fell during COVID, so there wasn't any playoffs for him to be able to show, but they were the best team in the league. After they'd missed the playoffs a year before, he comes in the first year, they're the number 1 team in the league. So he has an instant impact. That's what we're obviously hoping happens here in Washington, too. And given what we heard here this morning, I'm excited. I wish that the season started tomorrow after hearing what he had to say. I can't wait to see what he puts when he puts his thumbprint on this.
How valuable do you think the 2 years in Toronto are going to end up being for Spencer?
I think they're hugely valuable, if for no other reason. You're running it with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. They were middle of the pack. They ended up being one of the very best in the NHL, number 2 over the last 2 years. And the Toronto media market isn't exactly quiet. I would argue that being the assistant coach running the power play in Toronto is maybe more pressure than most NHL jobs. So I think it was a great learning ground for him, and I think to be able to bring that to Washington is big. And I want to see how the power play works. You've got the greatest goal scorer of all time on the man advantage that's going to work it from the point. He's not going to change. He's going to be over there. But how the pieces work around him, I can't wait to see how it works.
Before we let you go, you've been up to Hershey watching. You've been to Rochester watching as the Bears are 1 win away from a Calder Cup final. What have you been seeing from the Protuses, the McMichaels, guys who could be on the horizon for this team?
There are a lot of guys that are doing a lot of good work down there, and the job that head coach Todd Nelson has done. It's a very tight group. They don't want this to end. They're a really good team in that sense. They've gotten great goaltending from Hunter Shepard. Alexei Protas got a goal last night and looked good doing it. We've seen Connor McMichael get goals along the way, and I'm really excited. I'm putting Beck Mallenstein in the Capitals lineup right now. I don't know if player, and hockey ops may not want broadcasters making decisions. But I love the way he plays. I love the way he hits. I think he would have been with this team anyway. I think you think that too. 4LW on this team. I see him playing next to Nick Dowd next year, and I can't wait. But it's a great experience because if they can win down there, you start to get some more of that winning pedigree back in the Washington locker room, and I can't wait to see that either.
John, thanks for your time, and thanks for making Spencer and Mac's decisions about MacLellan so much easier. He's in the lineup apparently,
That's what
right?
I'm here to do. I'm
That's
here
right.
to help in any way I can.